It is Thursday afternoon, late afternoon, about dinner time in Southern California. And as most people know, I'm in Santa Barbara and I'm speaking and going to have a wonderful, very interesting chat, I can tell right away, with Bill Biersach, expert at the Chapman stick, which we will discuss and which is sitting right next to you, your beloved Chapman stick. And also, it would appear, I'm joking, we'll get very clear what Bill does, but apparently he likes to noodle around with electronics and stuff, as you can see all the goodies in his studio behind him. See, look at that. Bill is senior lecturer in composition theory and analysis, classical performance and composition at USC Thornton School of Music. Hello. I mean, that is accreditation out the yin yang. Started electronic music with USC faculty member Frederick. Here we go, Frederick Lesemann, and started teaching synthesizer techniques in 1975. This is all coming back to me now from our earlier talks. Created has become one of the most popular courses on the USC campus called The Beatles, Their Music in Their Time. So you know what, Bill? You're pretty hip, if I may use that cornball. I'm sure your students love you. What do you think?
Well, I don't know about that when it comes time for final exams, but yeah, the courses are popular.
Yeah.
And I'm currently teaching a class on Pink Floyd
Oh,
too.
oh. Even I, the like stick in the mud classicist, I remember. What's the famous Pink Floyd album? You know what I mean?
Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Friends in the neighborhood kept, insisting that I listen to that set. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, okay. Now we're talking about hang on, I gotta find it here. 2018 CD released. You guys these are self-produced, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, the CD is called Opus 14 Bismuth. Recorded direct to digital, two-track, without overdubs or edits. I asked you, over the weeks, I keep listening and I keep asking, what, no layering, no multiple tracking, no, it's just you and your friend Ralph Loynahan, electronic batterie, and there's a real good reason for that. He plays everything under the sun, apparently simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Ralph is amazing, as I was telling you. He can play four rhythms simultaneously, sitting at one percussion array, and I don't know how he does it. I just sit there watching with my jaw open, and I don't understand.
As everybody will hear when they go to performingartsreview.net, where we're going to put up the video interview. We're going to have links to websites and excerpts from Bismuth and other pieces. As everyone will see, this is the most amazing. I told you just a few minutes ago. This is dance music. I mean, this is just a fun
If you have three
CD.
legs,
Says the classicist. But what I mean by that, it's like 21st century fun and rhythm and jazz and all these wonderful sound effects and all the colors and imaginations. Wait till you hear the name, everybody, of some of these tunes. Bismuth, we'll talk about. It's a stone, right? A gem, a rock, a mineral.
it's a crystal. It's
Crystal.
a crystal.
How come I missed all that and I'm supposed to be educated? Anyway, so there's a bit of a fixation, we do believe, going on here with this particular CD about crystals and so on. But there's something more important than this I'm going to throw at you, Bill. You have this unique and interesting name for the band. Remember, it's just the two of you. People will be astonished to hear, literally with their ears. But it's called Shine, the band. But it's kind of
Yes.
assembled in a very interesting way. I guess it's your turn to try and explain how the image of Shine, the band, looks.
Well, you picture the word I, not capital I, but EYE. All right, but dot the I with a red dot. And then you put brackets around that. Okay, so we're still seeing I. Then before that, you put SH, and after it, you put N, and that spells shine.
Is this an
I thought
educator? Is this an educator or what? Talking here. Give me a break. That was perfect.
Ralph and I, we were sitting here in the studio and saying, what are we going to call ourselves? somehow this just popped out. We're going to call ourselves Shine, but we're going to spell it this way. So
How
that's
academic
what.
too, by the way. It threw me for ages, as I told you last time we talked. It's like what shy. You know, it took me a while to figure it out, and then all of a sudden it's like eureka! Of course, duh. Uh,
Well, you go on the internet and you take the brackets out, and Cheyenne is an Irish name.
oh
You know,
really?
so state of California doesn't recognize anything with brackets. Well, it'll recognize a name, but it will take out the brackets and anything between them. So for tax purposes, we're Shun, S-H-N. So,
So in other words, you appear to be beating the system, as I bet you have for about 50 years
yeah, well, it's
now.
maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I don't know, but we're sticking to it. You know, we were tempted to change our name, and we said no, no, we're committed to this. So
There you go. There you go. That's artistic freedom for you. We're gonna. I think I told you before we started. What I want to do is kind of in a bit get to the tunes themselves, and I'm using that word quite deliberately. Very interesting, very sophisticated, very, forgive me again, multi-layered. I mean, the stuff going on, and I have a very, I hope, very interesting question about just that and the human brain and its capabilities. Um, but let me see where I was here. Yeah, tell me about this Chapman stick. I guess we might as well get going because it's a big, crazy, mysterious beast sitting at your side. Can you
it's
give
right here.
give me the whole
Well,
Chapman stick? I'm sure a lot of us. I had heard of it, but I've never really understood quite how it functions, and a lot of people
well,
have never heard of it.
it sort of looks like a guitar when you first glance at it. The difference is that with a guitar, you fret a string and pluck it. With the Chapman stick, you just tap the string at the fret to get the sound that you want at that pitch level. So it's a tapping instrument. And it has this model that I use has 10 strings. Five of them are melodic strings, and five of them are bass strings. The melodic strings are tuned in perfect fourths, and the bass strings are tuned in perfect fifths. So you have to learn two tuning systems simultaneously on the same instrument.
Now I
And
begin to see why you became so fascinated by this instrument. I mean,
well,
really, it's an
no,
extension of everything going on behind you, if you will.
well, yes, but it's also very much like guitarists tend to be scared off by it, but keyboardists aren't because you're using the same kind of fingering but on a fretboard
So
that you would on.
when I hear keyboard sounds, you are on the Chapman stick. These
Yes,
keyboards,
I
that's you.
I have it MIDI'd so that I can control samplers and synthesizers from it, and I can also play the sounds of the strings themselves. So when you're talking about layering, that's the kind of thing that's going on. I have multiple synthesizers, multiple samplers, plus multiple effects on the natural strings of the instrument as well.
But this is not. I'm not sure whether we mentioned it earlier in the conversation. But this is not something you play with later. You're telling me this is happening live.
Yes.
The improvisation, everything that what we get on these CDs is your whatever time that you sat down and played this, and then it's done and it's all live, and then you said, we'll keep this one, right?
Well, on a couple of our CDs, we have bonus tracks where in order to prove that we can do it the normal way, we did some multi-track recordings, but they're labeled bonus tracks. But that isn't really where our focus is. But we kind of did that because some people were saying you really should do this, so we did it. But from now on, I don't think we're going to do any of that. Because it isn't really our forte. Our forte is we sit down in the studio. Ralph has his electronic percussion, and he'll come up with a bunch of sounds while he's sitting there, and he's got something like 40 plus possible sounds at any given time that he can play, and those are changeable while he's performing. And so he's got all that going. So he'll putter around, and then I'll have a couple of sounds going on my synthesizer, and we'll say, okay, let's hit record. So he'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when we start playing, it all changes. The instant we land on the first note and the first beat, everything changes. If he counted out 4, we'll be in 7/8. You know, whatever sound I thought I had, or whatever I was puttering around on, I don't do that. I do something entirely different. And he plays an entirely different beat. And we like challenge ourselves to, on the knife edge of the moment, to somehow make that work.
Oh boy.
I don't
Okay,
really,
so this is not garage band stuff, everybody. Just to make sure that we understand what's going on here, we're talking about two very, very sophisticated professional musicians and composer and so on. And so
yeah.
this is called having a good time with the upper echelon of the USC Thornton School of Music and friend percussionist. It's what you do after a long day at work at Thornton.
And on weekends. But yeah, we didn't plan to do this. When we met and started talking about playing together, we never said, okay, we're going to sit down and do totally improvised atonal improvs. We didn't say that. It's just when we sat down and started playing, that's what happened. I've never in my life worked with somebody who seems to know where I'm going when I'm playing. If I decide right here I want to change meter, it's just spooky the way Ralph changes at the same time. I don't know what it is, whether there's subliminal signals between us, or if it's just a shared vision, or some kind of
It's the little antennae that come up out of the top of his head to catch your
or,
radio signals many seconds in advance.
or,
By the way, you've just
or like
described.
Kepl with all those sparks flying around, and it's something like that, I think. Yeah.
But you've just described what I wanted to speak to because this is of course a little bit out of my territory. I'm kind of a classical guy, but I've been loving so much exposure to so much very, very interesting and sophisticated music. But my big impression, and it's always the most important impression to have, and I know you know what I'm trying to talk about when things are. You've just described an utterly random universe event captured by saying, okay, record. Really, I mean, in a cosmic sense. But what I hear, because of the level of your musicianship, both of you obviously, and you know this as well as I do, totally precise. When you say meters suddenly change, off you go together, tight. The colors, the choices that you make on the spot with these loops. Am I okay now with loop? Is that
No,
somewhat?
not looping.
Okay,
There are
not
no
loop.
loops.
No, okay, so that makes you even more genius. My God. Anyway, it's quite astonishing, really.
Yeah, well, but that's just it. We are composing. See, we're composing, but we're not composing on paper. We're composing on the knife edge of the moment. Whatever sound we have this instant inspires us to play the next sound, and that inspires us to play the next thing. And we're just drawing on a lifetime of experience. I've been playing since I was 5. And over all those years, I've been doing all kinds of music, and I've played thousands of hours in recording studios, my music, other people's music, and I just have all of that to draw from. Uh, and but I really do think of myself, and would prefer to think of myself as a composer, because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly right. In the I almost said in the new way. It's not. It's might as well be Mozart. It's you're composing in an improvisatory element, and that's the joy, presumably, and the thrill and the magic and the brainwave action of it all.
Well, when like guitarists try to imitate Hendrix or Clapton or whoever their favorite guitarist is. And see, when I'm playing the stick, I'm not trying to imitate any of the great stick players that are out there, and there are many. I'm not thinking about them at all. I'm thinking about the music I'm making right now. I think that's the difference, and that's where I'm coming from, and I don't mean it to make. I don't want to sound like it's chaos. It's but when you have all possible sounds and notes out there and you're trying to sew them together into something, it's like making order out of chaos. Let's put it that way.
Exactly right, and also the randomness of inspiration, for
Yes.
example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a
Mm-hmm.
completely random thing, or that you somehow, both of you, managed to decide somehow quietly in the silence of your two brains interacting that it's gonna wind down now, and yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. My education has been like, put it on a piece of paper and I can play it. I can sing in the shower beautifully and improvise, but, I was sort of a fuddy-duddy clarinetist type, horrible. So I'm pleased that improvisation is coming back so much more, especially with young professional musicians.
It might be a minor point, but it's important to me. We never rely on a fader to end a piece of music.
Yeah, good
We
point.
we we perform the fade, the
Exactly.
silence. Okay, just like performers on a stage have to do.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's how we look at it.
Yeah.
We would never do that. We would never resort to that.
Just as you will TP my apartment for having used the words loop, right? You're going to sneak up one of these nights and do me in on that one.
Well, see, the thing is, people make that assumption because there are those kind of little gadgets around where you can get a pattern and you can.
Which is
But we
perfectly
are.
okay, which is perfectly okay. Or little loops of, like, I'm thinking of little tinkling sounds that I heard. I figured maybe that was some kind of loop that came around
Well,
occasionally or something.
I actually have a whole rack of loopers here. All right,
Yeah.
and I do use those for certain effects, but I don't use them to make loops. I actually use them as complex delay devices. But
See, there you go. There's the USC Thornton getting back at us, folks.
yeah,
Pay attention.
okay. Uh-huh.
You know what? I want to talk about some of these tracks. What do you say?
Sure.
Of course, the first track is Bismuth. And let me just throw a few words of what I wrote down, when I was listening. By the way, and I also want to ask you, because I know well that you are in a milieu that is highest of high, really, at Thornton's. The, right off the bat, can you confess that there might be a little pictures of at an exhibition in there somewhere? Come on now, in Bismuth.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, that's
It's
a good
not,
answer.
it's not conscious if there
Mhm.
is, but that Mussorgsky had a big influence. I mean, not just Ravel's orchestration of it, but Keith Emerson's version of it as well. All those things
Yes.
are in there.
I've actually heard that.
I
Heard that. A young student of mine brought that version over because he took to convince me, the classicist, of this. Well, I heard that rhythm from, I can't remember which piece it was, and I had to ask because I know that composers, they play tricks on us. They hide little things, little chestnuts, little gems. I just wondered. Okay, so that was you all use the same excuse. It's unconscious. I couldn't possibly. You couldn't have come to
Well,
my head
it
conscious.
gets in there, and then it comes out.
Yeah, there you
Hey,
go. At the oddest times,
we
but
we
fascinating.
we don't steal. We're
Of course,
influenced.
of course you don't
Yeah.
steal wash my mouth with soap for even implying such a thing. And as we've discussed, touched on, you might kind of let's look at Bismuth for a minute, and I'll ask you to kind of divulge some of how this is. But I'm hearing string sounds, all kinds of wonderful mechanical sounds. By the way, I just love the expansion of color and imagery that all of these gadgets that you have give us.
One of the things I love about that open, and one of the reasons I insisted that that be the first track on the album, is the way it opens, the way it seemingly uh, randomly wandering around, and you don't hear an actual chord for like 2.5 minutes into it. You hear drum sounds, you hear notes and things, but it doesn't congeal into something until almost 3 minutes in.
It's
And then,
atmospheric for sure.
yeah, and
That's what I
but
wrote
there's
down.
this
Atmospheric.
rhythm section that comes in that was totally unanticipated, and whether whether it's Mussorgsky or Holtz, I don't know, but it's coming in
And
there.
I note that the two of you obviously improvise at a very, very high level together,
Uh, yeah,
and it's all free form stuff. Yeah,
mhm.
am I okay so far? Jamming is for sure the name of this fun. I write down,
Yeah,
and this
and
is
just to put
danceable.
a little exclamation on that, you notice that just at the very last 10 seconds, it turns into a jangled piano sound. That
And
that
and,
little.
and you do that at another piece. When you say jangled, that might not be the same, but later on I hear like quarter tones, like you tuned the piano in some ways or other, or you can bend the
Well,
tone.
see, that's piano was my main instrument most of my life, but when you are playing a piano from a fretboard, you can do things to piano notes you can't do on a piano. You can bend the notes.
Of course,
And
yeah,
so, yes,
that
you are
explains it.
hearing quarter tones. You're hearing bent tones.
That's
One of
wonderful.
the tracks on the album is called Antimony, and that was
Get down to
my
that one.
my my reliving the Ramsey Lewis, Lionel Hampton, all those old piano trio formats.
Here, I thought it was
Uh,
about a divorce or something, antimony or
Now, actually, antimony is a crystal very similar looking to bismuth, if we're going to be scientific.
well,
But the,
since every single track on here is a stone, we'd better. I didn't know that
but
antimony.
but see, with that piece, what I'm actually playing are two pianos. See, also when you're using MIDI with a piano, you can decide whether it will bend the note or not when you bend the string, or will it just stay on the a note like a piano does. Well, I have one doing each. One is
That
holding the pitch,
explains it.
one is splitting away from it. And so every time I bend a note, you're hearing the note, but you're hearing this bending away from it at the same time.
That you
And
just
it's
explained it. It blows the brains out. Believe me, it's an
yeah,
amazing color. And I kept thinking it was like a little toy piano on methamphetamine or something. Fabulous
yeah.
sounds, fabulous colors. All right, what else? How about your and you'll kindly explain this title, uranium. Well, we all know what that is. Eight-toed limbo. What's that about between you two?
When we were listening to the track back, somehow I just pictured some very rubber-legged person trying to limbo with that. There's all these really bright, sparkly colors in that track, but there's also this very rubbery bass line going on.
A
That
hypnotizing. I wrote down hypnotizing rhythmic figure.
oh,
To
okay,
take
yeah,
up all.
that's
Go ahead. Sorry.
you know, if I may, one track that I just really love the
Yeah.
opening of is Moscovium.
And you will explain what Moscovium is, please. I thought it was a hit nickname for people who live in that city.
It was actually an element discovered by a team of American and Russian scientists jointly.
Yeah.
So I looked this up. No, we were trying to find a name for the track. We don't have a name for a track before we play it.
Of course,
It's
you couldn't, right? Come to
no,
think of it.
we listened to it and then we said, what, this is a collection of pieces that, for whatever reason, seem to make connections with my interest in minerals. I used to visit a mineral store and buy little funny things, and
Truth
the
come out.
the
Now the truth is starting to
crystal
come
on
out.
the cover, actual bismuth crystal that I purchased like 20, 30 years ago, and I've always wanted to put that on an album cover, and I finally got the chance to do that.
It's
But
these fetishes
yeah,
that really are really interesting. I should have come to the conclusion that one of the two of you was a rock nut. Now we're clear, and I'm
yeah.
kidding, of course. I'm making fun,
No,
but
but back to
Moscovium.
Peruvium, okay? You have that wonderful hammered sound at the very beginning that is just it is so un-American, if you know what I mean. It's like Eastern European. It's like my Hungarian blood boils when I hear the beginning of that. Uh, and But see, that's part of the fun. You can't. I suppose you can plan something like that, but I don't plan it. It just pops out. And Ralph's, well, I don't even. It's some kind of a combination between what he's doing and what I'm doing that makes that unique sound, like the dulcimer. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Or the cymbalum kind of thing.
That's well, you were playing it before my very eyes, as you told me you were Hungarian or had Hungarian roots. You know what I mean? That very look of playing the.
Oh, the mad yeah.
Well,
hammer.
but let's see what I wrote down. There's a beautiful, relaxed, jazzy, rhythmic figure in there. It's very, to me, it was very casual, kind of a sauntering gait. Am I crazy?
No, that's in there too. You know.
And I make an extra note because we have talked in your fantasy that I've jumped into about a festival, an outdoor summer festival. And believe me, everybody, this is not so crazy. This could be really something if you guys could figure the grants and the pay. But I keep thinking of that festival, and therefore I make remarks like sauntering gait, satisfying, excellent for couples dancing. I'm seeing them on the lawn, and you two, the band, are on the platform. I've got it all set for you anytime you want to pick my head for this festival.
Okay,
and
sure.
Sorry, I have no money, so I can't invest a penny in it.
Well, we don't either. So.
There you go.
We'll see what happens.
But again, the CD is just so much fun. I think people will really enjoy having a good time with the CD. And again, it's at a very, very high level. Anything else about, I see a freewheeling, total improv.
And it ends on hexafluoroplaxinate.
Yes, and you will tell us what that is.
Latin. I had to end with a track with a 7-syllable name, and that's one I found. No, it is. It's a complex compound made out of two complex compounds, and I think that describes the musical flavor of the last track. Is you've got these several things going on at once, and yet it all seems to congeal into a whole, and it wraps the album up very, very well, I think. So.
It does indeed, and this very piece, because of its incredible complexity, and you've assured all of us out there that this is two guys. We're not no fooling around. It's total two guys improvising in. Talk about what do you call that, multitasking, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But and this one's very, very was very, it still is very interesting to me, and it reminded me of what choreographers have said, because I reviewed dance performances, and some of these really big name choreographers, and it never occurred to me before, the ones that involve so much tiny movement, detailed movement in their choreography. There is this prevailing theory that the brain picks up everything. You, the conscious being, may not fathom what you've just seen danced before you, but the brain picks up every single signal. How do you feel in this time? I realize it's an improvisatory setting, but how do you feel about the brain? Do you feel I feel that the brain picks up all of this complex detail.
Well, yes.
And does it matter?
Of course it matters. And see, the way I describe what I do is I take a lifetime of influences, all those thousands of hours I've practiced so many styles and recorded so many styles of music, and Ralph too. He's played all kinds of styles, all kinds of instruments. He's got all kinds of ethnic drums piled up in his living room. We could make a movie out of that. And it's like you take all that stuff, and you're referencing it constantly while you're performing. And I've likened it to Ravi Shankar and with his sitar playing, that he spent a lifetime learning these figures on the sitar, and then he could sit down and he could play for more than an hour and never repeat himself, because he has all this stuff at his fingertips that he's learned by a lifetime of practicing. And I think it's the same kind of principle. You have all these things stored up in your mind, and I played so many hours that I spent playing repetitive rock and roll in my life. This is like a reaction to that. It's like, okay, I've done that, and I've never figured out what it is that makes a hit song. As I've been involved in so many sessions and worked on so many songs with and without other people that I thought were like just dynamite things, and they never got any traction. And so when Ralph and I started this project, I just said, I'm just tearing up the whole plan of what I thought music was supposed to be and what everybody told me music was going to be, and now I'm just doing what seems to be what my life is all about musically, and Ralph is doing the same thing. So I don't know if that explained it, but
Well, it deserves a bravo, In other words, I guess at some risk, I understood you completely because, and I'm trying to find a delicate way to put this, but as we reach a certain age, we have really, in fact, done just about everything and heard just about everything a million times, which is glorious. I mean, I'm the critic guy. I love it. I know this repertoire so well. Not yours, because yours is completely fresh to me. But, the orchestral repertoire and all that good stuff. And having that kind of basic understanding allows me to hear so much more in other music, the structures and movement here. And this is why I find Bismuth and your other CDs. I guess something's coming up. Maybe we better go there. Anything in the works after Bismuth?
well, just last month we released two new albums. Uh, One is called Psychiatrica, and
That's going to be rich.
and the other is called Towers of Need, Balancing Presently. And
Give me 3 weeks to meditate on that one. I'll get back to you. Beautiful,
okay,
beautiful time. And as
but
per what you just finished saying, and then I'll let you finish. Sorry to interrupt, but as you were just saying, hey, at a certain point, I guess what I was trying to say, I didn't quite finish, was I do what I want to do. You know,
mhm.
it's
if if I could just add, you brought it up, the idea we have for an outdoor concert. You take that big bracket that we have around the word I with the red dot over EYE. Okay, take everything out of the word except the brackets in that I, and imagine those brackets being giant blue walls around a playing area,
yeah,
and that red dot being a raised red round stage.
yeah. You
Okay,
got it.
and picture a tower of speakers in the four corners of the brackets with a quadraphonic sound system, and as you said, a summer night.
And a big dance area, a big green dance area for people to get loose and easy and have a wonderful time dancing to your music. Oh yeah, oh yes. We talked. Oh, and when whatever 3 months ago we talked about this, and the I can just see it in my mind's eye. So you guys go ahead and create it and pull all your strings at USC Thornton. See what you can come up with money. How's that? Or are they tired of hearing that?
All right, well, we'll see.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we really appreciate your appreciation of what we're doing. That means a lot to us.
Well, thanks much. I guess we've just about pretty much covered it. Have I forgotten anything that I should mention? Let me do a little quote here. Virtuosic improvisation, album and creativity, originality. Uh, this is Opus 10, Big Percolator. That was a quote for I guess one of your earlier CDs. But
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about here. This isn't just messing around. As I said, this ain't no garage band fooling around. These are you two are you and Ralph are experienced professional musicians playing in a magnificent whole new arena, at least to me anyway, of color and sound and imagination and imagery and all the rest of it. And that's what music's about. Okay, let me run down the. By the way, all of this stuff's going to go up. The video interview, all the links to see who Bill is at USC Thornton School of Music. Ralph will put people in touch with how they can pick up the CD, buy the CD from you. All that's going up at performingartsreview.net. I hope in about the next 3 or 4 days we'll see. And then I'm going to try and see if I can write a little bit later and throw up there as well, kind of just an overview of what I experienced with the CD, and see if I can give you a couple of quotes that'll be useful hanging, there at the festival. I can just see it now. Let's make them 4 foot high letters. Yeah, I could get into that.
Okay.
Anyway, Bill Biersach, many, many thanks for giving me some time this evening. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.